The following is produced by 5 Star Productions USA, which is solely responsible for its editorial content and is sponsored in part by a grant from Paul Mitchell Salon Hair Care.
For some people, fishing is a national pastime, but commercial fishing poses serious threats to species other than fish. The albatross, the world's largest seabird, has declined by 50% in 20 years, largely due to driftnet fishing. The birds go for the bait and end up hooked. And over 4,000 dolphins a year still drown in the purse seine nets used on tuna boats. There's got to be a better way. Hello, I'm Ed Begley Jr., and this is Today's Environment, broadcasting from the back lot of the Disney-MGM Studios at the Walt Disney World Resort, where we're examining the better ways people have already found to solve other complex problems facing the Earth today. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. A typical large office building can waste 30 to 50% of its air conditioning, cooling the heat generated by its lighting system. We need to design with the Earth in mind, and this idea may help.
Actions speak louder than words. In today's society, it's often politically correct to preach an environmental agenda. But what we practice isn't always consistent with the words. Merely paying lip service to concepts embracing energy and resource conservation could reduce important messages into meaningless rhetoric. Fortunately, many individuals and organizations who call for environmental improvements back their words with significant actions. This facility, the Energy Resource Center, was opened by the Southern California Gas Company to teach and promote leading-edge energy and resource conservation and air pollution reduction technologies. The center gives companies a place to present, showcase, and educate customers about new products and equipment that can improve our environmental report card. In an effort to practice what they teach, most elements of the actual building and grounds serve as functioning displays of the concepts the center promotes. The renovation incorporated hundreds of tons of materials that were recovered by carefully dismantling the existing building on the site. Recycled steel containing between 25 and 66% post-consumer recycled metal forms much of the frame. Instead of specifying virgin wood products, the ERC incorporated previously used lumber. This entry lobby is laid with reprocessed wood from an old Banana Republic warehouse.
Seeing practical working applications of innovative ideas helps foster acceptance. Here at the ERC, we have different rooms that focus on specific subjects, like this room that showcases equipment that uses catalytic infrared heating technology. This flameless technology offers tremendous cost-saving, economic, and environmental benefits in a variety of industrial applications. We dedicate one room solely to new technology, and in another one you can see computerized simulation of natural gas cooling systems.
Low NOx technologies and other air quality subjects receive center stage treatment in one room, and the South Coast Air Quality Management District and California Environmental Protection Agency staff an information and permitting assistance counter in another. Inside, concepts like daylighting and super efficient windows help maximize energy conservation. Outside, xeriscaping, or the use of native plants that thrive in the existing climate, helps conserve water. When a facility stands to foster energy and resource conservation and overall better environmental responsibility, and it's constructed with materials, equipment, and designs that illustrate its purpose, well, then each and every visit could be described as an exercise in utility.
Do you like to fly? You could rebuild the entire fleet of commercial airliners 4 times with the amount of aluminum we threw out in just a year. Those cans add up. Don't throw them up, and away. Recycle and get involved with today's environment today.
Air pollution is not just a serious problem, it's murder. Every day, about 800 people around the world die prematurely due to unhealthy air. But this next segment features an innovation that may help us all breathe a little easier.
Don't inhale. This air could take your breath away.
Nearly 2/3 of smog-forming chemicals come from our automobiles. The rest come from power plants and factories.
Combustion, especially the burning of fossil fuels, gets the blame for the majority of air pollution today. Scientists, researchers, and engineers constantly search for new ways to control the emissions from combustion. And this innovative low-NOx burner system, created by Phoenix Combustion, may help power plants cut their NOx emissions by 75%. Nitrogen-based NOx emissions react with the atmosphere to form either smog-producing ozone or nitric acid, which can cause acid rain. Simply put, the Atlas burner system puts a brain in the flame to reduce those emissions. Burning coal, oil, or gas releases oxides of nitrogen. They form as a result of a chemical reaction between nitrogen and oxygen. If there's too much air or the flame temperatures get too hot, nitrogen in the combustion air oxidizes to form increased amounts of NOx emissions. The low NOx burner system constantly adjusts the air and fuel to control the flame temperature to minimize NOx emissions. This dramatically reduces the amount of NOx formed in the combustion and also reduces the NOx emissions. It may look similar, but coal varies by precise chemical makeup and BTU value from mine to mine, and this burner system created for PSI Energy's Gibson station can burn coal from 46 different mines. The intricate software being developed for this burner system is easily adaptable to the control mechanism and will be able to make automatic adjustments for the energy values in the fuel. Before devising a low NOx burner system for a power plant, the engineers run three-dimensional fluid dynamics and design simulations which take into account a plant's existing boiler characteristics, the burner region, and the overfire air ports. An electrical plant boiler can require from 2 to 80 or more burners to generate the steam that turns the turbine. Yet each burner can be controlled individually to ensure that the proper mix of fuel to flame is maintained at all times. Although Phoenix Combustion is a relatively new firm in the power generating industry, this large utility took a unique approach in using the thinking burner system and made a dramatic reduction in its NOx emissions.
The best innovations don't always come from the biggest conglomerate, and the fate of our planet lies not in the hands with the largest fingers, but in the minds with the greatest imaginations.
Plastic, better ways to keep it out of landfills, and a new idea filters your family's drinking water. Next on Today's Environment.
Plastics. One word of advice to a graduate in a 60s movie. Remake that film today and the good advice might be two words: plastics recycling. By the year 2000, the roughly 10 million pounds of plastic recycled annually could increase 10 times. And here's one reason why.
Meet the family. You may call them all plastics, but they're as different as night and day. One can be a thin and flexible film, and the other nearly rigid as glass. The 7 most common types of plastic packaging often have an SPI resin identification number etched into their bottom surface. As a family, plastic makes up over 25% of municipal solid waste by volume, and today, about 16% of all plastic bottles and containers produced ever get recycled. But some companies are taking a whole new perspective on this waste and finding new ways to recycle plastics that have been ignored until now. Like polypropylene. Until recently, this packaging material rarely made it to recycling facilities, even though it represents over 10% of all plastic produced and has many applications. Snack food packaging, ketchup, syrup, yogurt containers, sport drink bottles, and car battery encasements make up some of the common uses for polypropylene. Now, new ways to use recycled polypropylene bottles should create a better fate for this waste than a forgotten landfill.
The plastic that formed this durable box comes from a resin named Refax. We developed it at Montel North America to create a recycling alternative for polypropylene bottles. It contains at least 25% post-consumer polypropylene, which was recovered here at Polymer Resource Group.
The clear bottle for this household cleaner also comes from Refax resins. Whether or not this candidate is a friend of the environment isn't clear, but his sign of refax plastic certainly is. Researchers at Montel USA, the world leader in polypropylene resin technology, continue to work on developing other resin blends using recycled polypropylene. Their efforts in polymer technology could hopefully lead the way to source-reduced dairy containers by as much as 10 to 20%.
We hope that our success in recycling polypropylene will encourage municipalities to add these materials to their home recovery programs. Because if manufacturers feel confident that an ample supply of post-consumer polypropylene can be made available, they will be more apt to contract for bottles using those recycled resins like refax.
The more that can be found for this post-consumer resin, the greater the demand will be for the used plastic that creates it. In a world where landfills bulge at the seams with nearly every kind of waste imaginable, finding new ways to recycle any material helps reduce the stress. But adding polypropylene to the list of recyclables could eventually eliminate an entire category from the dump and make every political candidate more environmentally correct.
Look closely. Is this water or poison? Unfortunately, it may be both. Every day, as many as 15,000 people die from diseases caused by unsafe water. This next segment examines one way we can respond to this problem.
Fresh water, what looks so pure, can be very polluted. The pristine H2O necessary to sustain life on this planet too often becomes tainted from processes designed to improve life in the fast lane. Municipal water treatment facilities attempt to purify our drinking water and can make it bacteriologically safe. But many facilities still use filtration methods that were common at the turn of the century and can do little to eliminate the modern chemicals and contaminants that seep into aquifers or run off into our lakes, rivers, and streams. One of the most potent disinfectants, chlorine, may kill viruses, but can produce known carcinogens when added to the water. And even if all contaminants could be removed at the treatment plant, aging pipes often add traces of lead and other metals to the water as it travels from the pumping facility to your faucet.
You know, many people refuse to trust their water purification solely to the city anymore and enhance municipal treatment with their own home purification systems. This at-home filter, developed for Equinox International, uses a complex three-stage purification process.
Stage 1 channels the water through granules of purified zinc fused with copper. This step converts chlorine to a natural mineral, zinc chloride, balances the pH, and inhibits the growth of bacteria. Stage 2 diverts the water through ceramic-coated granules called zeolite. This material extracts dissolved lead and adds the mineral potassium. Finally, in Stage 3, activated carbons attract and remove organic contaminants like industrial chemicals, pesticides, or carcinogens created by chlorine, called THMs or trihalomethanes. Researchers at Equinox warn that additional health risks may come from inhaling steam in the shower. EPA statistics indicate that the steam can be 6 to 10 times more harmful than drinking the same water because the contaminants are much more concentrated. Most chemical pollutants and chlorine vaporize at cooler temperatures than water, and therefore they make up a larger proportion of the steam. To reduce this risk, many consumers now install shower filtration devices for better protection. Some people even prefer the cosmetic benefits of a chlorine-free shower. Acid rain, polluted storm water runoff, and leaking underground storage tanks make up only a few of the ways contaminants foul our drinking supply. H2O makes up over 2/3 of our body, and even the most modern water treatment methods simply do not have the capability to eliminate all possible pollutants.
If adding a filtration system at home can improve what becomes 70% of our body, well, it may help keep the other 30% in much better condition too.
Coming up on Today's Environment, vehicle fleet maintenance for the 90s, plus controlling the liquid waste stream from electroplating operations.
42 to 1. That's a good ratio to remember the next time you change your oil. It takes 42 gallons of crude to produce the same amount of fresh oil that you can get from recycling a gallon of used motor oil. Let's take a closer look.
Oil. We found oil? Well, unfortunately, it's in our rivers, lakes, streams, and drinking water supplies. Americans go through about 1 billion gallons of motor oil each year, and nearly 350 million gallons ends up in our environment due to improper disposal. Everyone knows you have to change oil, but not everyone knows what to do with the used oil. It doesn't matter if a business owns one truck or an entire fleet. Recycling used oil might be one of the most important things any company can do for the environment. But properly managing drained fluids from a fleet of vehicles can be an enormous challenge that distracts from operating a growing business. Many environmentally responsible managers have opted to delegate that responsibility to reputable outside vendors. This mobile service, operated by ViaCare, performs preventative maintenance on commercial fleets. By also offering significant cost savings, they in turn provide an added incentive for companies to help minimize their fleet's environmental impact. This 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week on-site service can substantially decrease vehicle downtime and dramatically reduce oil spill potential. And it eliminates the need to store oil in filters at the company location because the van brings in fresh oil, filters, and other fluids and takes anything drained or removed away to a recycler. With computerized data and fleet management software, they can keep up-to-date maintenance records and schedules for every vehicle in a fleet. When it comes time for routine service, their van travels to the vehicle's location and the technician changes the oil and filter, checks inflation levels, inspects the brakes and clutches, provides safety checks, analyzes coolants for chemical breakdown, and sends oil samples to a lab. These analyses can often pinpoint potential mechanical problems. All fluids can receive proper handling that complies to EPA regulations. Oil gets stored in special safety-reinforced tanks and taken to a recycler. The technician from ViaCare also drains used oil filters and then crushes the steel casings for recycling. The life of engine coolants can be extended by using special additives, thereby reducing drain intervals and the amount of coolant entering the environment. Clean, top-quality oil and filters, properly inflated tires, and a well-tuned engine all contribute to reduced fuel consumption and reduced emissions. Commercial vehicles pack an enormous punch to an earth already reeling against the ropes. Proper and responsible maintenance can help soften the blow considerably. In a society so dependent on the combustion engine, the way we maintain our vehicles may hold the key to the way we sustain our planet.
Inertia. It means an object in motion or at rest will tend to stay that way. Sometimes old methods get an inertia of their own. Very wasteful processes remain the same because no one thinks to change them. But here's some new thinking about an old business. Let's watch.
Rust. Corrosion. Steel's worst nightmare. Moisture and humidity can reduce a metal part to a rusty reject unless that alloy can be sealed or protected from corrosive elements. Just like painting often seals and protects wood from the elements, electroplating does the same to metal. Simply put, electroplating fuses a thin layer of rust-resistant metal over the surface of another, less resistant metal like steel. The process dates back to Thomas Edison and requires electricity, a metal anode, a catalyst, and lots of water. But dissolved and suspended metals turn ordinary water into an extraordinary stream of liquid hazardous waste.
This electroplating facility, operated by KPC Southern Industries, targeted traditional processes to find new ways of cutting the amount of waste generated.
In the first step, an acidic or alkaline bath cleans the metal for the plating process. During plating, a DC current sends a positive charge through an anode, like this bar of zinc. In the catalyst solution, this charged metal dissolves and a magnetic attraction pulls a layer of those dissolved particles over the negatively charged steel parts.
Now, after each step, the parts get rinsed. It adds up to a high volume of liquid and solid waste that must be dealt with according to federal, state, and local codes. Process modifications implemented to minimize waste stand to benefit both the company and the community.
One technique, called electrowinning, reclaims the unused dissolved metals out of the solutions and can help render the waste stream non-hazardous. Substituting traditional toxic chemicals with non-toxic ones also reduces hazardous waste and the related costs. Counterflow designs for rinse water resulted in nearly tripling the usefulness of each gallon, and coupled with a recycling program, monthly new water consumption plummeted from 50,000 gallons to 10,000 gallons per day. KPC Southern Industries gives credit to these improvements for keeping the volume of their waste constant, even though the volume of business has doubled. They look to developing technology for further gains in recovering and recycling chemicals and in reclaiming the suspended metals captured in their filtration sludge. They hope to mirror a plating facility in Massachusetts that operates so pollution-free it has an unregulated drain line.
The genius of Thomas Edison turned the physics of electricity into the chemistry for preserving metals. However, the challenge remains to improve the processes of this inspiration so that they also preserve the planet.
Imagine an area the size of Pennsylvania covered with lush tropical forests and teeming with exotic wildlife, plants, and trees. Now imagine an army of bulldozers, buzzsaws, and flamethrowers reducing that paradise into a barren field. Unfortunately, that happens every single year in the world. I hope this show from the Disney-MGM Studios at the Walt Disney World Resort inspires you to help find some answers to problems plaguing the planet. Join us again next time as we explore more environmental solutions on Today's Environment.
The MGM Studios are located at the Walt Disney World Resort near Orlando, Florida. The preceding program was sponsored in part by a grant from Paul Mitchell Salon Hair Care. This has been a presentation of 5 Star Productions USA.